This is officially becoming a nuisance. This is becoming something that just won't go away. This is something like a pebble in your shoe that always seems to linger. Darryn Peterson was ridiculous on Saturday against UCF. Darryn Peterson dropped 26 in 23 minutes before leaving the game once again due to a lingering injury. There were different injuries early in the season. Then all of a sudden it was a quad, it was this, it was that. But we are seeing now a scenario where Kansas cannot have any rhythm, chemistry, or role allocation with Darryn Peterson continuing to pull himself out of games. Now, nobody is debating the fact that Darryn Peterson is a world-class talent. This guy is a ridiculous offensive player. He's got great size. He's got great shooting ability. He's got great accuracy. He's got a great feel for the game. He is an awesome, awesome talent. That is why he is in play to be potentially the number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NBA draft. But when Bill Self said during one of the times that Peterson was out of the lineup, when Bill Self said that he was waiting on word from Darryn Peterson's camp, whether or not Darryn Peterson was going to return, I knew then and there that this was not going to be a thing that Kansas was going to be able to weather. Because when you are at the mercy of somebody else, running a program and putting a team together with a mission to win is secondary to what that camp feels is best. And it's impossible to win at the highest level. These are the gaps and dates for Darryn Peterson this year in games that he's played. He played the opener against Green Bay on November 3rd. He played against North Carolina on the 7th. Then there was a gap. He came back for the Missouri game on December 7th. He then played against NC State on the 13th of December. NC State lost that game to Kansas in overtime. Then he came back and played on January 3rd last Saturday against UCF and then took himself out of the game late. The gap right there did absolutely nothing to establish any rhythm, any chemistry, any role allocation for Kansas. Now, I will say this, and if you've watched this show and you followed this show, obviously since last summer, you know my feelings on Kansas. Even if Darryn Peterson is available for the Jayhawks, Kansas is not a team that is among the top 5 teams in the Big 12. Now, Kansas could still be the 6th best team in the Big 12 and be a top 16 protected seed on Selection Sunday. But Kansas, and you tell me if I'm wrong, leave a question or a comment in the chat. Kansas isn't ahead of Arizona, not ahead of Iowa State, BYU, Houston, or Texas Tech. So now, if you're trying to put together a team to win, which is the operative thing, not necessarily put together a team with a guy who's showcasing his talents for the NBA, because you don't always win big that way. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Last year, Rutgers had Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, 2 of the top 5 picks in the NBA draft. Rutgers went 15-17. 3 times in the last 10 years, we have seen players be the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft. Markelle Fultz at Washington, Anthony Edwards at Georgia, Ben Simmons at LSU. Those 3 players played on teams that did not make the NCAA tournament. I'm curious if the Kansas fan out there now would prefer Darryn Peterson to shut it down for the season and you move on with the continuity you saw in November without him. Because I'll say this, when Kansas knew the core of players that it had, and when Kansas knew it didn't have Darryn Peterson in the Champions Classic at Madison Square Garden against Duke, and Kansas did not have Darryn Peterson in the Players Era Festival in Las Vegas, Kansas didn't necessarily have great talent, but Kansas had rhythm. Kansas had role allocation. Kansas had a team that could be a decent and capable college team that could stay in the top 25. And I didn't expect to see that in Las Vegas. That's a credit to Bill Self. But for the Kansas fan right now, would you rather roll with Darryn Peterson and this musical chairs type of scenario that we're seeing, or would you rather go to bat every single game and know that we're going to have the following rotation? Melvin Council's playing a big role on the perimeter, and he is cemented there. Trey White is a major piece to the puzzle. We know in the backcourt, we can either play Jamari McDowell, we can play Elmarco Jackson. Up front, we're going to have Badunga, we're going to have Tiller. What would you prefer? Because for me right now, given what I saw from Kansas in November against Tennessee and Syracuse and Notre Dame, when Kansas had a really good week before Thanksgiving at the Players Era Festival, I would rather have that than the inconsistency of watching a guy drop 26 in 23 minutes and then leave in the second half. I mean, and let's be honest right now. No disrespect to UCF, who's off to its best start in program history. Kansas lost the game to UCF on the road. If Kansas is going to be vintage Kansas, how is it going to beat these teams if obviously Darryn Peterson is getting 26 and 23 minutes and it still can't win? Still can't win. It's not getting any easier. Kansas has TCU coming up this week next at Allen Fieldhouse. TCU is no pushover. They're not talked about as much as some of the other teams in the Big 12, but that is a capable basketball team. Jaden Pierre, Brock Harding, Latoris Lelavicius, all via the transfer portal. David Punch, solid role player at the 4, much like Jamie Dixon had when he was at the University of Pittsburgh. That's a capable team coming to the Phog this week. And beyond that, Kansas still has 7 games, 7 in the regular season against the top 5 remaining teams in the Big 12. And I'm going to go through it again. Arizona, Iowa State, Houston, BYU, Texas Tech. I'm making a prediction right now. For the 3rd straight season, Kansas is going to have double-digit losses. And remember this, prior to last season, Kansas had never lost 10 or more games in back-to-back seasons under Bill Self. And this is the hard thing right now, not just for Bill Self, but for every college coach in America. When you are a head coach now in college basketball, you are not just a coach. You're a fundraiser. You're somebody who obviously is going to go out and have to raise money for your collective to go out and get players like Darryn Peterson, players, again, that are going to be potentially stars at the next level. So if you are going to raise money and you are going to ask for financial help, the people who are putting up that money are interested, if they are putting the money up, in seeing these players perform. But the problem is, in this scenario and in other scenarios, we are seeing situations where that is not on the head coach. The head coach isn't making that decision. It's on the camp of the player who, again, is about to earn generational money at the NBA level. But that doesn't align with college basketball. You can make a lot of money now in college basketball. You can make more, obviously, than you used to, because you weren't making anything before, due to name, image, and likeness. But for all intents and purposes, this is a difficult scenario for Bill Self. And here's the Cliff Notes version. With or without Darryn Peterson, Kansas is not in the top 5 of the Big 12. I do think with him, Kansas could be a team that finishes 6th in the Big 12 and goes to the Sweet 16, because it will do enough to obviously get a quality seed in the NCAA tournament. But beyond that, Kansas now is going to have to navigate this situation against a schedule that is ruthless in the Big 12. 7 games against the top 5 teams in the conference. That's not counting the Big 12 tournament.